this has been a lot of talking. I mean, we're a decent amount into this course and we haven't done anything yet, so let's do something. So I have to kind of give you disparate instructions depending on what your operating system is. You can see here I have my Mac running, so I'll be showing you obviously all this stuff from a Mac. But this should also work for Windows, and this will also work for Linux. So I'll just say if you're already running a Linux computer, congratulations, you're already finished. You can use Linux on Linux, right? I don't think that's much of a secret to anybody. But if you're on Mac OS or if you're on Windows, you're going to have to do some extra steps here. So we're going to go through something called virtualization. You've probably heard the abbreviation of VM before, so we're going to set up a Linux VM on your computer. And a VM is just an operating system running within another operating system. So you basically have a host machine, which will be my Mac, right? And it's basically going to create a virtual computer inside of it that I'm going to access through my Mac. That process is called virtualization. And that VM is not going to have access to any like real hardware. Basically, your host computer is going to fake a access to memory, access to all that kind of stuff, and it's going to give that access to the guest machine, the VM that's going to be running inside of it. So at this point, we're going to get your VM up and running. So I'm going to give you a couple options. The one that I'm going to suggest to you is one called multipass. So if you go to multipass.run, like that, you'll end up on this website. This is from Canonical. You can see up here, this is actually an official project from Canonical. And it's just a mini VM runner for Ubuntu on your computer. It's super easy to get up and running with. So if you go back to my page here, oh, not that one, this one. So I gave you instructions here for Windows 10 and instructions for Mac OS. So just go ahead and click on this and go through this. And I'm going to leave that so that you follow their instructions because they'll keep this up to date for you. But for Mac, it's really as easy as just downloading something off of GitHub, it's installing it, and then you'll get this little orange thing that you can see up here in my toolbar. That's what multipass is. And it's relatively the same process for, oops, go back here. It's relatively the same process for Windows 10. The one thing that I want to call out, if you are on Windows 10 Home, you have to install VirtualBox, okay? If you're on Windows 10 Professional or Education or Enterprise, you don't need to do anything else. You just need to install Windows 10, you need to just install Multipass and you're good to go. But if you're on Windows 10 Home, you have to install one more tool, which will be VirtualBox, which I have down here as well. So I'm just going to re-emphasize that because I know people are going to ask me later, if you have Windows 10 Home, be sure you install VirtualBox. Okay, so once you go through that, it'll give you this little thing up here and you can open the shell. So if I just click open shell here, you can see immediately it drops me into Ubuntu. And for Mac OS, you just install it and it should work. So the other option I do want to give you, you can just use VirtualBox directly, whether you're on Mac OS or Windows or Linux. VirtualBox works on all three of them. It's a project from Oracle that allows you to run VMs whenever you want. It's just a little bit more process to get that up and running because you have to install the installer as well. So I'm going to suggest everyone use Multipass. So, and I did leave some instructions here if you want to go through and do VirtualBox. I'm not going to, again, walk through them, but at the end of it, if you do VirtualBox, it'll look like this. And then lastly, if for just Windows 10 users, you can do WSL. And I left some instructions there. WSL allows you to run a Linux kernel within Windows. I'm not going to get too much into that. If you want to go down that pathway, that's actually what I do on my personal laptop, is use WSL, but that's not available to everyone. So, does anyone have any questions or concerns about about installing Multipass? That's really what I think you should do, unless you have a strong opinion that you should do something else.
Can you use Windows subsystem for Linux?
Yep, actually, that was the last thing I was talking about here for WSL users right here. So Windows subsystem for Linux is WSL. And I left the doc here for getting it up and running on Windows. I would definitely suggest getting WSL 2 if you want to be on WSL. As of Windows Update 2004, which most Windows computers should be on now, you can get WSL 2 whether you have Home or Pro versions of Windows. If you're on olders like 1906, you have to be on WSL 1. Or sorry, excuse me, yeah. Only WSL 1 will work. So anyway, yes, WSL will work great for this course.
Is virtualization and emulation, is that the same?
You know, I don't actually really know the difference between those two things. I think emulation is you're emulating specific hardware. Like when I hear emulators, I think of like emulating video game ROMs, right? Where you have your computer pretending to be different hardware than it is. Whereas I think virtualization is actually just creating subsets of resources and giving a guest machine access to those resources. So it's not like you're really emulating anything of sorts. In fact, you're not, right? Everything is still the same instruction set, whereas emulation, you're actually changing instructions on the fly to try and pretend to be something else. But you might want to check me on that. That's just me pulling stuff out of somewhere.
Do you know the main difference between WSL 1.0 and 2.0?
I do. WSL 2 is actually virtualized. So it's a real VM. It runs on Microsoft Hyper-V, whereas WSL 1 was doing like an old, like a translation basically. It's more like an emulation, I suppose. So it was a lot slower, in particular when it had to do like cross, like talking from Windows to Mac or Linux and Linux back, it was super, super slow. Whereas, you know, hypervisors is quite fast. So suffice to say, they basically totally redid WSL from the ground up from WSL 1 to WSL 2, and it's just 100 times faster. I don't think I'm even exaggerating. I think it's actually over 100 times faster. Like the virtual file system on WSL 1 was so slow that when you did npm installs inside of WSL, it would take minutes just because of the file I/O between back and forth of writing files. And now npm install on WSL can sometimes be faster than natively running Linux.
And there's quite a few people asking about if they can just continue on with Bash if they have Mac rather than virtualizing Linux.
Wouldn't suggest it. You're certainly going to run into some differences because they are, like I said, different things. So I would suggest getting into multipass and running Linux. You don't have to. I mean, it will mostly work, but part of the point of this course is also to learn a little bit of Linux.